If I gave you a coloring book, would you color inside the lines or not? That's the question for today because it has an important bearing on our life and work. So stick around for Life's Potluck Buffet. I'm John Paulus. Thanks for joining me. The reason I ask this question is because today's episode is about living outside the lines of life. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me give you an example. I just read an article in the New York Times about Alina Kojukaru. Alina Kojukaru is, as the headline of the article in the New York Times says, a freelance ballerina. Alina Kojukaru operates outside of the lines. She was with a very famous ballet company and was at a young age a star and a famous ballerina. She decided to strike out on her own, to leave the lines drawn for her career with a ballet company, and to free herself creatively by doing that. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about living life outside of the lines, because it's the same thing as in the coloring book. Most of us, the vast, vast majority of us, live our lives coloring within the lines. And that's okay. But if you ever have the urge to color outside of the lines, as Alina Kojukaru did, and you have the opportunity to color outside of the lines, take it. Because that is a moment of liberation. Let's ask the cards about this. What can help us get liberated and live outside of those lines that normally circumscribe our work and our lives? Okay, cards, here we go. So the bottom card is Make People's Days. I hope you have the opportunity once again to make people's days and to see that light that you have and to see the light in other people. Okay, so the Make People's Days just dropped out there. Okay, so 3 casual shuffles. That was 1. That's 2. That's 3. All right, and then I'm going to do a formal shuffle. Shuffle the cards here. Okay. There we have it. Okay. So let me find the card that is sticking out. Oh, and I think it's this one right here. Okay. Well, that's fitting. It's the wild card. It's the Your Logo Here wild card. So there's 1 wild card. There are 3 wild cards in the Life's Potluck Buffet deck. The second one has the prompt to describe a logo that comes to mind. Whether you love it, hate it, or just happen to think about it, there's a reason why it came to mind. And when you're thinking outside of the lines and living outside of the lines, I think this logo is going to have to be a logo about what is liberating for you and trying to picture that, trying to picture a symbol of that liberation. What have you thought of? I thought of a hot air balloon. I think we did an episode about that and just came to mind because it's the idea of that lightness. But there's a kind of combination here where something very heavy can be lifted as if it's light as a feather. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. And that's that paradox that I think that I am thinking of right now about living outside the lines. How can something be light but at the same time be heavy? That's interesting because I think there's a lot about Life's Potluck Buffet is about paradox and unexpected opposites and using that to lead yourself forward, to find your way forward, to figure out new things about yourself and your life and what you need to do in life. So I like this hot air balloon idea. There's an idea of uplift and rising up and emerging into the lightness of the sky where the balloon goes. So that's what I'm thinking. That's me getting outside of those lines and my way of doing it. And I think that my way of doing it is very much one that thinks about what is the opposite of what we normally do. Because that opposite of what you normally do provides the newness that we're looking for in a time of change. Because doing things like you always do them that's coloring within the lines. That's following that path that may keep you back because you're still working within a framework that is not your own framework. Once you operate outside of that frame, right, the framework is what's given to you, that drawing. Take a look at the title card of this video. You see that there's a outlined version of the Dutch oven that's the symbol of life's potluck buffet, or casserole if you like to call it that. And that has been provided. And as you can see, it's been colored around. I colored around it. And that's the point of thinking about working outside of the lines. Because once you're outside of those lines, there's room for you to operate in a way that is authentic to how you're operating, and it's what you need to do without the structures and the strictures and the framework that you have to work within. So in the case of Alina Kojukaru, she doesn't have to work in with the culture expectations and framework of a ballet company and all that comes with it, and all of the ways in which that might hinder her ability to stage what she wants to stage, to express what she needs to express, and do the work that she needs to do. The same thing is true in many of our lives. And if you're that kind of person who says, you know what, I have to work outside of the frameworks to do what I need to do, then take that opportunity. The odds are, if you're that kind of person, you already have done that. So look to that and understand how that works. But if you're not the kind of person who does that, and you're interested in being that person, in saying, you know what, I normally don't do that, but you know what, maybe I've been holding myself back, then try this exercise. In whatever work you're doing, think about how that work has lines around it that were never drawn by you, that were drawn by the culture of that work. Think about if you operated outside of those lines, what that would look like. What would you do differently? And how would you do it differently? And what would that mean for you? And what would that mean for what you are doing? And if you can, do it.